Alright guys, so I'm about to get on with my daily update here. But if this is the first segment I'm posting today, welcome to the podcast. If not, then you know it's not. So anyways, let's go. I am basically driving around town here. Dang, I don't know if I can get out this other way. Oh my goodness. I'm driving in an area that I don't know. Around by the beach. By another beach, actually. It's not quite where I'm used to driving. So, just figuring this guy out. I get so annoyed. Like, LA is like so hard for me, guys. Like, I grew up out here. I learned to drive out here. It's not like I'm unfamiliar. It's just so much. Like, every time I want to go do something, it's like so much. Like, it takes so much energy. So, yeah, I was in the middle of trying to complete a gig for today, and I guess there was some kind of weird certification I needed to do first, and so because of that, I can't do it, and I drove all the way here first, so now I'm gonna go drive to my pod spot. But yeah, this is just my daily update. I don't know, like, I was up a little late, actually. My family members were up a little late. I did take some melatonin last night around 11, which was kind of late, or maybe 10:30. I don't know if it was 10:30 or 11, but nonetheless, I took some melatonin, and I've been a little bit trying not to have melatonin. Not that I'm like that against it. It's just I've just been trying not to have it, because it does kind of screw my cycles of sleep or wake. You know, like it just makes me groggy in the mornings, and I have enough trouble in the morning as it is. I feel like because I'm groggy in the mornings, I'm a little bit grumpy, but maybe I just didn't sleep enough. But yeah, I woke up today kind of like, you know, ready to do what I had in my plans. And then I guess I expected, you know, to be the only one up and just at least have time to myself. You know, that's at the very least, that's kind of how I prefer to start my mornings. Just kind of like, okay, like I've mentioned before, it's like usually I'm the first one awake in the house, usually earlier. Like I was awake earlier, but I didn't start getting up till like 8:30 a.m., which is late for me. And last night, you know, I started kind of dozing, but I was kind of like, I don't know, like I was still trying to like push myself to stay awake, even though I was like, I need to go to bed so I can wake up early and get going. And I didn't really do what I was supposed to do on that end. You know, I didn't sleep early because I may have dozed, woke up around 1 a.m. for the restroom because I was kind of dozing around then. So I would say I kind of started really solidly sleeping around 1 a.m., but I was kind of dozing for from probably like 11:45 till about then, just kind of in and out dozing, because I don't know, I was kind of pushing to like not sleep at the same time as like sleeping. Like, I don't know, I do that sometimes, and I had a little bit of a rough night. It wasn't like super smooth because I was pretty exhausted. Like, I don't know what happened yesterday. Like, my energy yesterday was like real weird. You know, I had my regular coffee in the morning, and then I was podcasting and stuff, but you know, it was, you know, I've been kind of maybe off of a regular plan for a while now, like a couple days, you know, so it kind of threw me yesterday, I guess, because I was like, well, it's Sunday, let me like get some work done, and then I didn't really do too well at that. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying, but I'm just like, you know, sometimes I just have to wait to get into a flow of things and for things to get smooth. And that's kind of the process I'm in right now, where I'm just like, you know, things just need to get a little bit smoother. I need to just get into the swing of things. Because I haven't really had, you know, a solid schedule for like a few months now. And, you know, but yesterday was pretty chill. On Sunday, you know, I, you know, did some pods, watched a lot of Coachella online. Oh man, I was loving it. It was kind of funny too, because a bunch of my friends were like reaching out and kind of put a smile on my face. They're like, "Are you at Coachella? How is it?" And I'm like, "I'm not even there. Like, I'm watching it in my house." Like, but it's kind of funny that I think everybody thinks that I go to like everything, because like, it's just, that's a pricey one, guys. Like, I'm like, that's steep. I'm about to go to the Sick New World Festival in May. I'm like, I already went to a rave at the beginning of April. I'm like, let me try it once a month. I don't know if I can do more than that, but yeah, I was kind of like, ooh, I didn't really go. You know, I didn't really do it. Even though I wanted to do it, I wanted to go. I would have loved to be there, but no, I had stuff. You know, I had other stuff to pay for, and like I mentioned before, you know, I was at the end of my budget, the end of my spending spree budget. You know, I had an amount of funds allotted that I was like, by the end of March, I'm gonna spend this much money, and you know, whatever I haven't bought by the end of March, you know, I'm kind of just not gonna do it. And then other than like Pride tickets and stuff like that, like Pride tickets, summer events and stuff, you know, I was not really buying any other thing until snowboard season, pretty much. And so I'm like, dang, man, like, does the year really come full circle that quick? But yeah, come November, I'll be back in the mountains, and I should be working. I don't want to say it. I don't want to say that I should be working in May. I don't want to say it, guys. I don't want to say it at all. But I need to be working once May starts. I am done with this break. I'm so over it. I've been testing out gigs just because I like it and just for fun, but I'm like, you know, I need to just take this stupid test and get the job, you know. Like, I'm really stalling. There's definitely more to it. Like, there's definitely more to it than just, you know, oh, like, I needed a break. Like, yeah, I needed a break for sure, but, I definitely, I'm just, you know, there's a whole process I have to go through right now, mentally and emotionally. You know, it's like a whole, like, I need to get myself out of my head about a lot of stuff, and, you know, it's gonna be hard to do. You know, it's gonna be a hard thing to do, but, you know, step by step, one step at a time. You know, I'm not gonna overwhelm myself with this. Like I mentioned, I have money set aside. I have options if I need to make extra money real quick. It's a little hard, you know, like, going from a lifestyle of the typical traditional route, that I was taught, go to school, get good grades, get a high degree, get a good job, settle in that company, and never move companies, and you'll be fine, and that was the game plan. That was the plan, that was the strategy. And it wasn't smooth. It didn't go like super smoothly for the whole entirety of this whole journey. I'm not saying it didn't go smoothly for the whole entirety. I mean, there were hiccups along the way, for lack of a better word. Really devastating hiccups that kind of interfered with the game plan and, the field I was in, and not being licensed. I mean, I wasn't trying to get licensed. I actually wasn't trying to work in clinical, in all honesty. Like, my goal was to be, get a doctorate and go back into research. But that doesn't seem as lucrative as I thought it would have, because I have some friends doing that. And I feel like my friends that are doing the best in, with lining their pockets, they're the ones doing clinical work. But it's just not for me anymore. Like, it's too much. Like, it's just way too much for me. For my own health, I had to step out of it. Like, it wasn't just the financial part of it. Like, that I could have dealt with, but it was like so many things combined where I was like, there's a certain way that I need to live for my own health. And, that was not it. Those housemates, that was not it. The other people, that was not it. Like, I made it work on the financial end because I was like, well, I'm saving, which I was, because at least I was able to hit my financial goals. So that was kind of what I had on my positive side. I'm going to watch and see if these people are paying parking today. All right, we're just driving on in. All right, so let me get an ideal parking space. I'm just doing errands this morning. My phone, man, it's at like 27%, even though I charged it before I left the house. So I might not be able to do as much podcasting as I had planned. And I don't know, there's people driving in circles. Does that mean that there's no parking? I come park at the beach because it's the one place I can kind of be near home and also, have my windows kind of opened and kind of feel able to, ooh, it's crowded. It's crowded today, guys. It's crowded today. Alright, so I don't know. So yeah. So that was kind of my whole thing. But yeah, I found it pretty it's kind of a weird place to be in. Like, I feel like I'm kind of in a weird place. Not like literally, but figuratively speaking, I'm kind of in a weird place in life. because I have opportunities and things that I can do and stuff that I can plan to kind of be able to reset, stuff that's not working. And I'm also, dealing with a lot of, like change for me is pretty difficult. Like, I do find it a lot less anxiety provoking to just sit and do the same thing all the time. There is a small thing that I noticed that, whenever I'm doing something new, it's exciting, but at the same time, it takes so much brain power, and I feel like, I do kind of notice that when it comes to work, especially, or anything, because I tend to choose like quite intellectual types of work. Like, it's usually not like easy. Like, it's not something you can just jump in and start doing. Because I don't want something that's just like monotonous and like boring, Like, I like to learn on the job, but then at the same time, it's like that is a little bit stressful for me when I'm not like smooth with it. Like, I feel like the jobs I've had took me like almost a year to kind of learn how to do them, and it was pretty intensive, and there was so much to do, and like now I know how to do it. But when I think back, I'm like, man, this was like super intensive and really hard to do and really hard to deal with. And I was able to do what I needed, but to think about, I have to do it again. Like, there's no other option. Like, I'm not going back to where I was, so I'm like definitely moving forward, but just like doing it when I'm ready versus like pushing myself. Like, I feel like if I don't push myself, I'm not gonna be ready very easily or very soon. Like, I have to kind of push. And that's what I'm finding the struggle with, is the push. Like, it's hard for me to push, past my comfort level, because I don't feel ready. Like, I don't feel ready to be in a new field, new coworkers, new people, new environment, new everything. I don't think, I don't think I'm ready for that. But I would say on the other end of, like, my financial goals, my entertainment goals, my social goals, my pride to some extent, like I'm not trying to be living with my folks for, all that much longer. I'm not trying to, I love them, and I love that they're supportive, but also it's, I noticed that I'm just not, I don't want to say I'm unhappy. That's not true. I'm just not happy with, like, there's some goals that I'm just not at right now. And there's a part of me that's really struggling with that reality, that I'm just like, you know, and it's all in my head, I have to just shift my focus. That's really what it is. It is me, I'm the one that's sitting saying like, oh, this is going to be stressful, when, I got this. Like, I've never had an employer, not one who knew me well. I've never had an employer that knew me well say, your work performance is poor, your work performance is bad. Like, with some things, I would say maybe, yes, I'm not maybe the fastest at the job, or, I miss things, like I read something and, that's not what it was supposed to be, or like I try to do something and it's like, that's not right, you know, like I make mistakes, not like so many that it's like a problem, but it's like I do notice, you know, when I'm trying to do certain tasks, especially like new tasks at jobs, like I'm not as good at them as I'd like to be, and you know, it can be hard to accept, you know, the criticism on that end early on. So that's something that I know I'm gonna have to face. That, you know, I've done it before. Like, it's, you know, I've done it before with really shitty people. You know, like I've had some really shitty, you know, supervisors and managers. Like, not, I'm not talking about the last job I was at or anything, but like, yeah, over the years, like I've definitely had some people in my life that they had some mental health issues that they needed to handle, and they just weren't good at being in charge. They didn't have any patience, you know, they didn't have any understanding. They just were bullies basically, and thought that they could push their weight around, um, and that would get the job done, you know. And I've confronted those people, you know, I've confronted them in my own ways, about that, you know, like it just, the opportunities came to me to be able to confront them, where, because they asked me, and I was like, well, if you're gonna ask me, I'm gonna tell you, you know. But, you know, I noticed that it wasn't too, it wasn't too much of anything, you know, like, um, you know, I got my foot in the door at a company where the work mattered, and, you know, even though I would say, like, on the financial end it wasn't prestigious, like, or anything like that, it was in a way like a very valued position. Like, I liked talking about work with people a little bit, you know, like when people were interested in what I would do and stuff. Like, it was, you know, I wasn't like ashamed of it or anything. I was like kind of proud of the work I was doing, and, you know, there was a part of me that's like, fuck the system, like, you know, like I was glad that, you know, we were kind of a part of something, you know, very important, you know. And especially during the Rona, you know, it's like, damn, you know, like, we're essential workers and sticking it out. That was valuable to me. But I mean, it still is, the experience still is, you know, valuable to me that I had that experience. But um I'm also like a little, um, I don't know. I don't know if tired is the right word. Um, like, for me, breaks, I've never had a break this long before, and breaks are, you know, I'm definitely, you know, reflecting a lot and looking, you know, at myself and at different areas of things, and, you know, it's definitely been, you know, eye-opening, you know, to kind of break things down and be like, okay, like, what's really happening, you know. And to be able to get like a whole lot more clarity on things, on what goes on in my mind, you know, because there's nobody at this point. Like, I'm, you know, a little on the isolated end for my own reasons, because I want to be. But yeah, there's not that much, um, that any other person can do other than me. Like, I'm the one who has to do the steps, and make those choices every day. And, you know, I'm not part of a team. I'm not part of, you know, a cohort. I mean, in a way I am, but, you know, we don't know each other. We're strangers on the internet, online classes, you know. I have colleagues and, you know, people that I, you know, was working with before, either through school or whatnot, where I know, you know, a lot of us are in the same boat. Like, you know, so I'm like, you know, just trying to kind of focus, you know. That's one thing that, you know, when I'm pretty stressed out, it's hard for me to focus. And, you know, it's hard for me to kind of get a timeline going for my day. And, you know, when I start doing something that's like one step, you know, like, for example, say I have a day where I'm like, you know, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to podcast, I'm going to go to the beach, you know, I'm going to go to the coffee shop and study, you know, but maybe before all that, you know, after the morning podcasting, I'm going to go to the gym, or after the morning podcasting, I'll go to the gym. So I noticed that I'll, you know, do the podcasting and, you know, I'll get that out of the way. You know, I'll do the gym and take a long time there, but it's like I'll use the majority of my energy, and then I'm like, all those good hours I could have spent studying, you know, I'm at the tail end of the energy then, and then I kind of just run out of steam, and I'm like, well, you know, I use like whatever energy I have on reserve at that point, and I feel like that is not a good strategy at all, you know. But I really, you know, because I like podcasting outside, it is more ideal for me to do it if I'm going to the beach, to do it in the morning, like before it gets too hot, or if I'm doing it at home, potentially doing it before everybody wakes up, which is why that's one motivator for me to get up early, because usually nobody's awake, so I can record, nobody hears me, and I feel comfortable doing it. I'm kind of more confident in myself, just doing my own thing and not worrying about other people. I'm gonna put on some sunscreen. Not worrying about other people being involved. Like I would say my family's not like the nosiest of people, but to me it's like when I'm doing my own thing, you know, I don't really want people involved in the process. You know, like I have this online store, for example, and, you know, I wasn't going to tell my mom about it, and then I ended up telling her, and, you know, she ended up being the first customer, and I was like, I don't know if the site's up, I don't know if it's ready, I'm still kind of like testing, and then she just bought something, and then it kind of forced me to have to quickly figure out how to like use this like drop shipping. I think I was using drop shipment or something like that, and like have to learn how to use this drop shipping program. And you know, I was like, I don't even know how to do this, you know. I was gonna take my time on it, but because I had a live order, I was like, well, now I have to follow through. And then, you know, the first round of that didn't go too smoothly, so I was a little bit not too pleased with the process of it not going too fast. But you know, yeah, like it didn't go too fast. And I guess that's okay, you know, but I would have preferred it to go faster. and it wasn't smooth at all, you know. And so things like that, where I'm just like, I don't like involving people because then they want to get involved, or like, you know, like I'll tell my close friends. I have close friends who know about like the podcast and the websites and all this kind of other kind of nonsense. Like they know about it, but you know, they don't like get involved in a way where it's like any pressure. But I don't like any pressure, and I feel like, you know, just something as simple as somebody like buying something on my store and it's somebody I know, or something as simple as somebody giving feedback on something, and then I'm like, oh shoot, you know. But I mean, I can put in the work, because then when it comes to those kind of things, I put in so much effort. And so, you know, like, definitely, you know, when I'm left to myself to create strategies and follow through with different methods, that's probably a weakness, is, you know, prioritizing the things that I need to do first, that I need to prioritize first, even if I don't want to. Like, right now, it's just taking the stupid test. Like, that's what I need to prioritize, and I'm just not doing it, you know. But it's not like I don't have the time. Like, I spent like over a week doing job applications, and I'm like, I could have just studied and been applying to jobs that I actually want to be applying for, and instead of just applying to other jobs, you know, because I was like, well, I got these financial goals I'm trying to reach. So it's just a whole process, you know, and it's a mental process, and that's what makes it hard. And you know, I like talking about it though, because it's like, I know I'm not the only one. Like, you know, this whole imposter syndrome thing, and you know, people that just think that they can't do it, or not even think that they can't do it, because I don't think that I can't do it. It's just, you know, in my head there's so many concerns of like, am I ready yet? Am I mentally ready to be back working? You know, when I can't even hardly get it together on a normal day. But then it's like, I also feel like, on the flip side, the reason why I can't easily get it together is because I don't have that, you know, accountability, you know. Like, I'm accountable to nobody right now, you know. And you know, as much as I'd like to just, you know, have things for myself, working for myself, doing my own gigs and stuff, that's not really a strength of mine at the moment, you know. You know, prioritizing schedules, and you know, just setting a schedule and sticking to it in the way that I need to. Like, that's not really a strength of mine right now. I'm too all over the place. I'm too unfocused, and I don't follow the best strategy, the optimal strategy for my energy, for my focus. Like, I know what that looks like, and I just avoid it. And so, like, that's kind of the reality that I have to deal with. And I'm like, it's me that's doing this or not doing this. Like, it's me, you know, it's nobody else. It's me who's kind of making the decision to do this or not do that, or choose this over that. And you know, it's me, it's nobody else. Like, nobody else is making those decisions on my behalf. I'm the one who's doing it. I'm the one who's doing it or not doing it. I'm the one who's choosing some task over other tasks. I'm the one who's putting more energy into one thing over another thing. And that's not how the workflow is supposed to go. You know, if I'm trying to meet some kind of goal on the career end, you know, I've got to take this test and get the job, you know. Because if I don't take the test and get the job, then I'm not gonna get to this financial end that I'm trying to meet by September. I mean, I'm literally pushing my own deadlines. Like, it's like, I'm on track, you know. But man, it's just so much. It's so much. But yeah, like, I'm definitely I definitely get in my head about it, you know. I definitely get in my head about it, and I definitely could do better on just, on just simply, you know, um, just simply like following through, with a strategy. Like, I'm not bad at this. I'm not bad at making plans and strategizing. The follow through is what's getting me, and I know how my days need to be structured and how they need to look, and I'm avoiding it. And so, yeah, like that. That's just my reality. I don't know what more to really say about it. I can't really say much more. Like, I'm the one who's doing this. I'm the one who's making these choices. I'm the one making these moves. It's me who's doing these things. It's nobody else. It's me, It's me who's doing this. And so I don't really know. Like, there's not really much more that can be said. Because, I need to get it together myself. It's something I need to do. And so, yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of how I go about, pretty much talking myself through things. Just trying to see what's going on big picture. Like, it can take a while, or even, like, sometimes I feel like I really just don't have, like a mental access to even noticing what's going on. Like, I literally have to go somewhere and sit there and just, like, think it through. Like today, it's like I can come to the beach, sit, think. Dude, it's pretty huge out there. It's like super huge. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. Because even with this time of day, usually it's starting to mellow out closer to 11 or so. But yeah, it's nice to come out and look, see what's going on. The surfers are still out here. It's a Monday and they're out still, so it's pretty cool to see. It's kind of funny too. I often wonder what people do for work, when it's like we're all out here at the beach on a Monday, in the middle of the morning, just like chilling, And part of me is just like, that's how life should be, You shouldn't have to be on a beautiful day, stuck inside your house or stuck inside a freaking office, You should be able to be out in nature. And be a human, not be a robot, I think we're getting closer and closer to just not living by our human nature, Like, I think it's important to be outside. It's important to get daylight. It's important to just kind of be able to take a step back, pretty much, and kind of just see what's going on. But yeah, I do feel pretty much more mellowed out. I'm gonna pretty much adjust my schedule for today to kind of prioritize some of the stuff that I need to be doing. The good thing is, the city I live in, everything is relatively close. So even though I usually tell myself, like, I'm just gonna leave the house once a day. I could technically still leave the house again later on. You know, I don't have to leave now. I don't have to, wait or whatever. Like I can pretty much leave the house whenever I want to leave the house. So, or I can go back to the house because everything's pretty close by, and then leave again, go back out again. Just mornings are going to be preferred because it's going to be getting hot lately. Like, I think today's high is going to be 67, so that's kind of fine. But once it starts getting in the 70s and 80s, like it was this week, it was like close to 80 last week, I guess. Some days, like over the weekend, and then it's cooled off a little bit more. So, you know, but in some places it's still storming. I don't know about out here, but I know my sister's in Santa Cruz, and for her it was still a little stormy not that long ago. I want to say last weekend, not this past weekend, but last weekend maybe. And my friends on the East Coast, they're saying it's pretty stormy. So I don't really know. But, yeah, I need to be able to do the plan, stick to the plan. I'm getting a little off course, and doing other stuff, and it's me who's doing it. It's not like somebody else is making these decisions. I'm the one who's doing this. It's me who's making these decisions. And so, yeah, like it's not gonna work if I don't do it the way I need to do it. That's basically all it is getting out of my head and just focusing, instead of, getting unfocused. Like I have noticed I got unfocused. Like I felt like I was being super productive when I was like applying to jobs and stuff. I'm like, I'm gonna get temp work and like do all this stuff. And I did end up getting a job, but I'm like, once I thought it through, I'm like, dude, this is gonna take so much energy out of my day. And I'm already doing stuff that's taking energy out of my day. And that amount of money and wear on my car isn't gonna help where I'm trying to go anyways. Like, I'm gonna try and get a new car or even used, but yeah, not yet. Like soon, but I'm not ready to do it quite yet. But you know, if I wear this one out, if this car blows, I'm screwed. Like this is not good timing. It would really set things back for me. And so, to take a job where I'm going to be having to drive really far, drive really often in my own personal car, my old car, that's not going to work for me. So, I don't know. I don't know if people are interested in this kind of stuff, but this is the way I kind of have to sit and talk myself through things, is like, I have to sit and talk myself through it, and just be like, look, this is what's going on. You're off focus, you've gone some other route that feels productive, but is not productive towards the plan. And that's one thing that I do struggle with is, staying productive, but on the route that I'm trying to be productive on. I am good at finding other things to do and really, delving into them hardcore. And then it's like, now another week has passed me by, and I didn't even do one thing on, I know once the system for my courses has logged me out, then that means I need to get back in. I'm not in there enough, it's like, like if I have to keep logging in, then I'm like, oh shoot, like I've been off here for a few days, so I don't know, but so that's where I'm going with all this. I'm just going to keep it basic and try to just focus, podcasting, websites. I got to do that kind of stuff for my own portfolio. and then from that point, like after my portfolio is kind of secure, or once it's once I'm pretty much done, then I'll then be able to you know, feel a lot better about that. But yeah, that's all it really is. It's not that I can't do what I'm trying to do. I mean, I think what I'm going into is going to be far easier, at least emotionally and mentally, than what I was doing before. Like, there's no way it's going to be that much of an emotional drain. But you know, part of me also gets a little like, I've never really made that much money, you know. So even when I did in the past, kind of screw around a little bit with my finances and like get a little off track, it wasn't like a big deal because there weren't any big numbers. It was like, all right, just like do a couple driving gigs on the side or something like that, and that would be like the end of the problem. It's like, all right, just do some Uber Eats kind of stuff or whatever, and just pay back if it's debt or whatever. Just pay it off real quick and suck it up and do it. But I do kind of worry about my self-control as far as spending. Like I'm not out of control with spending, but I can get a little unfocused from my budget. I get a little overly excitable, especially when it comes to like certain things like concerts and sports and stuff like that. And it's not cheap. It's not cheap to go and have those live experiences. Like, it's not like affordable necessarily. So I don't really know, but yeah. So there's that. But yeah. But alright, guys, so that's going to be the end of this. I'll call them dailies. I don't know if I'm really going to post them every single day, but I'm going to make an attempt to do so. I kind of might, a little bit. Just because it helps me to have something as part of my routine like that. So, and I'm pretty far deep into podcasting, so I don't really want to, pull back on it now, even though I'm definitely in a struggle to figure out these dang algorithms and such. But alright, so I'm gonna get on it for today, and then with that, thanks for listening. Alright, everybody, welcome back to the podcast, back to Tomboy Official. Whew. Just ate dinner. Had some stewed oxtail with some sauteed veggies. Good stuff. A little spicy. Good times. Alright, so today's topic. Let's jump in. I have been studying Scientology over this weekend and came across this podcast called Cults and Consciousness on YouTube. And there was an LGBT person being interviewed who was previously a Scientologist. She's female, about 33 years old at the time of the recording. And the lady who runs this podcast, Cults and Consciousness, used to be in the Mormon religion, and there's a lot of content on her site on her channel about Scientology, Mormonism, Jehovah's Witness, and then some other stuff too. But that's the bulk of it. It seems to be those three belief systems. some of it's comparing and her kind of like asking questions and people kind of speaking to their experiences. So I thought this one was important, especially because, Scientology is so accessible. They don't look like any kind of religion I've ever seen. They they're basically like they don't really have like a god. That's one thing. Another thing is they kind of, it's enticing to people. They're very sociable for people to come and like join and talk and start learning. And it sounds like before people actually join, they feel like they're learning, and so they're like, well, why wouldn't I join this? Because it's a lot of like self-help and like things like that. And then once you join, then it sounds like it gets pretty wild. So I don't know fully yet, like I'm not fully done studying yet enough to know the specifics of the LGBTQ plus kind of details, but let me see if I can look it up. I'm just going to look up LGBT and Scientology, and then I'm going to go through my outline of what I kind of had prepared to talk about based on the interview with this lady, Dani. So, let's just look at Wikipedia. It's easier that way. Scientology basically is based on writings of this guy, L. Ron Hubbard. So L. Ron Hubbard is a science fiction writer, and he basically wrote this whole script of what the religion is, the Church of Scientology. He's the founder of it. And regarding homosexuality, it seems like Scientology, criticizes homosexuality. It promotes homophobia. They have claims about trying to cure homosexuality. They call it the Dianetics movement, and that's what she mentioned a lot in the video, but I never knew what it meant when she was saying it. So basically, Dianetics is basically tests that were run, well, according to like some research that they claim to have done, but I guess homosexuality is considered an aberration, and they also list other things that would be considered aberrations. That's like basically like, I guess they don't really have sin, but I guess an aberration is technically like a negative thing that you're not supposed to be doing according to that belief system. So they say other types of aberrations would be something like bipolar disorder, which is a mental health diagnosis, asthma, arthritis, colitis, and then they list in their overt homosexuality. Yeah. So, I don't know. So, I'm not well versed in this topic, but I do think that there might be people out there that might be interested in it, or at least, I know that there is a population of people who either were very religious, are currently religious, or were from, a very religious background, but they're also LGBT people, or maybe they're allies, or maybe they're family members or friends of someone who's LGBT, and they've tuned into this content here on my podcast. And that's why, it's those reasons why I like to kind of touch on religious topics sometimes, is because they are very impacting on the LGBT community. And I think a lot of times it's easier to not talk about them because it can be triggering for people. And I want to put a trigger warning on this just because it might be triggering for some people. Some of the content, I think when it comes to religion, there can be a lot of trauma for people sometimes, and if not trauma from that, just talking about mental health topics and like symptoms and things like that can be triggering for people, and talking about abusive nature of what happened in her story, that can be triggering too. So I think, that being said, if that doesn't seem to be the direction of what you want to listen to, I'm not going to go into like grim details or anything, but I mean, she didn't either, but so I don't really have grim details to share, but still, I do want to put that out there, that it might be intense for some people still. Because the reason why I say that is because sometimes I myself notice myself even being triggered by certain content. Like, a close friend of mine sent me a long time ago, like, we send videos back and forth, links back and forth of like, oh, I find this interesting, or like, this is coming out, like, at a later date, I want to check this out, like, either online or in person or whatever. And so she sent me a link, and it was a video. This was probably like 2 years ago, 3 years, I don't know. She sends me this link, and it was a video trailer of, I think it was like people in church, and this is unrelated to what I'm talking about, but just about triggers and stuff, basically. It was like people in church, and it was a queer male who was kind of in church, and the person up on the stage was preaching this really heated sermon, about, against homosexual people, basically. And I think it was just showing his expressions. I think he was tearful. I can't remember exactly, but I remember seeing that, and I was just like, my friend was like, oh, this is coming out, and I was like, ooh, like, I don't really want to watch that. It's kind of like, seems a little dark for my taste, and so, that, and then there was some other show that I was watching that's not even supposed to be too triggering. I think, what was it? It was I think it was the L word, but it was in Georgia or something like that. Somewhere in the Bible Belt. I think it was in Georgia. And it wasn't the L word show, like the series or GenQ, or like, not that L word, but the real L word, but it was not the one in LA or New York. It was like this other one, I think, that was in Atlanta or something like that. Alabama, I don't know where it was. It was somewhere that it wasn't Los Angeles, I'll tell you that much. And, I watched part of the first episode, and it was basically, I think it was like this lesbian couple, queer women, 2 women, I think, ethnically diverse couple. I think it was a Caucasian lady and African American lady, and they were in a relationship, and they started talking about, firsthand, talking about what it's like living where they live, and there's a lot of influence from church. And I was just like, oh, like, this is just not what I want to see. Usually when I'm, consuming LGBT content, I don't really want to be thinking about experiences about church and all that kind of stuff. So I get it, and, it's not even super easy for me to be talking about it, and that's why I don't talk about it all the time. But I feel like if I don't talk about it, there's a lot of people that, there's no representation there for those people who are out in these other states or in these religions in any state, and they're experiencing all this prejudice around them. And me living in LA, living in San Diego a little bit, and living in LA, I have not had that experience. Not really like that. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm trying to shield the mic from my throat clearing. I've still had this weird sinus thing going on for a while now. But yeah, I still tried to, put it out there, because I wasn't raised in a cult necessarily, but I was raised in a very strict religion around people who were very, very strict. And I would say I was raised around some other types of people that were maybe adults that had a very strict view and almost cult-like thinking when it came to that religion. But I wouldn't say specifically if I could classify what I was involved in as a cult, but I think that religion does have a cult, like a type of a cult, but not the places where I was attending services and things like that. But I've definitely come across some cult-like experiences, but it wasn't necessarily like a long-term thing. But that would be, why I kind of gravitate towards a little bit of this content. So every now and then I do, watch, excuse me. Every now and then I do watch content about, different religions, and, I really do, even though I've not been in a cult and, that kind of thing, I do know the experience of being in a very strict religious environment. The religion I was a part of was one of the stricter types of Christian denominations, but it wasn't really, I don't know, I had a good enough experience with it. Like I had I had an okay experience with it. And also I lived in LA and San Diego, but most of my time, once I was out more, was definitely in San Diego. It didn't start in LA for the most part. I wasn't openly doing not a whole lot of dating. I wasn't openly doing that. So let me get into this topic. When Dani's talking, on the podcast, Cults and Consciousness, she talks about her experience as an LGBTQ plus person. She was in this religion since childhood, and I can't remember what age. I want to say somewhere between maybe 5 and 8 years old. I think she joined with her mother. I think she had siblings too, but she joined and was very interested in it, and basically, that's not the right way of saying it, sorry, my mind's kind of blanking at the moment too. She joined and was, speaking to her experiences as a child, and then started speaking to her experiences as she was maybe an older kid coming into teen years, starting to notice that, maybe she had an interest in women, like maybe, she liked females, and, you know, she got in trouble at a point for posting something on MySpace where her and one of her female friends were kissing. She got in trouble for, and it sounds like it was like a really strong form of reprimanding. And so, what she was explaining is the Scientology cult has what's called ethics, and they have auditing. And so ethics are basically like, from what I gathered, it's like some kind of a correction type of experience that you have to go to when you do something wrong, or maybe you just have to go to it even if you don't get in trouble. I don't really know. But then you can also get audited, and when you get audited, it's more of a serious thing, and it's a form of punishment. And you basically have to tell everything about yourself. So kind of like, Scientology teaches, that anything that's negative, they teach you that, if you're having a headache, you did something to bring that on. Like maybe you broke a rule or didn't confess something you did, or like you're holding on to some kind of guilt, or like you had some kind of negative mindset, like you were bringing this onto yourself. So what did you do? Even if you get sick or catch a cold or anything like that. Now, when it came to COVID, I don't know how they really dealt with that and explained all that, but it sounds like there are a lot of aspects that, when it comes to, science, actual science of like human development, sexuality, gender, mental health, physical health, child development. I feel like they don't teach that like a normal science would. They teach it more like this kind of twisted version that meets what their religion or what their belief system teaches. So all those categories that I just listed are like weird. And basically what ends up happening, that she explains, is that there's adult strangers that are grooming kids. And so, if you get in trouble for something that you're not supposed to do, like having thoughts that you're not supposed to have, or posting something on the internet that you're not supposed to be doing, you're going to get in trouble. You have to go to ethics. She said she went. And basically, anytime you get in trouble or do something wrong or skip class, or, you're not doing what you need to do, you basically have to go to this type of confessing thing where you're basically talking to an adult. Now, it sounds like these people aren't like close-knit religious community. Like, for example, when we used to go to church, I would have, my parents' friends, my friends' parents, those would be the adults around me, and if there was like a brand new church person who came in, I didn't maybe know that person. Now, we did sports league and intermingled with other churches and stuff too, so sometimes I would know adults at other churches of the same denomination. But then there were plenty of adults that I didn't know, but I just kind of saw, maybe like in passing. and kind of knew about them. And then there were maybe like some that I was like, I don't know who this person is. And then there were other people who had like, that would maybe be visitors, people I'd never ever seen, but once. And then even if I did speak to them, I never saw them again. And so it sounds like from what Dani was explaining that people who were in charge of these kind of ethics training, when a kid or somebody would get in trouble, for her experiences, when she got in trouble or had to go report something that she had done, she basically was confronted in a room by herself, without her mother even there, because her mother was part of the church too, but her mother wasn't even involved in any form of punishment or reprimanding or training about values or anything. Her mother's off working for this church and doing whatever the jobs are that they have the people doing all the time, all day, every day. Her mother was off doing that, and that was normal. Like, it sounds like the parents weren't the ones reprimanding the kids. The parents weren't the ones in charge of, a punishment or something. Like, the church took that role on. The religion took that role on. And so now the thing I don't understand about ethics is if it's something that happens, like, is it like a weekly thing where you have to go in and like report on yourself, or does it only come up when you did something wrong and they call you in to that space or whatever? I don't really know. But either way, it sounds like, there were adults that would be in charge of this ethics training or the auditing processes, and that means you're in trouble basically because you have to report any thought or feeling that you had that was negative, that was against the beliefs of the church. And I call it a church because they call themselves a church, but they don't really have a God, and they don't really, usually I think when people say church, you usually assume there's Jesus involved. Like, usually, I think that term is pretty much what people would associate the word church with, as well as, like, say if you say synagogue, people associate that term with Judaism, right? Or if you say mosque, people associate that with Islam. Like, you don't really tend to have a lot of words like that you use just interchangeably. Even though I know the word church doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have, Jesus in it, but usually when you hear that term, that's kind of what people would assume, is that it's a Christian thing. Scientology has zero to do with Christianity. Doesn't have anything to do with the Bible. It was written, L. Ron Hubbard, the science fiction writer, made the religion, basically. He made it himself. And this is modern day times. This isn't like old, like some of these religions from like the 1800s and stuff. It's not from back then. It's newer. And so basically what happens is, her experience, say for the experience that she mentioned about being on MySpace, kissing her female friend, posting the picture, she said she got in really big trouble for that and has to go into this ethics counseling or auditing or whatever it's called, and talking to this adult stranger. So she mentions that adult strangers are the ones grooming kids. It's not like a normal kind of religious congregation where you would have like a community of people that you usually, like, if you were going there since you were a kid, you technically would have been knowing a lot of the people. It sounds like the people who were reprimanding her were not
her parents were not people that she knew. Now, I experienced, at church, different people that, if I stepped out of line and my folks weren't right there, they would have been like, hey, don't say that, or don't curse, or like whatever. Like, they would have told me what to not do. They would have explained that to me. And they said that, adult strangers were grooming kids on things like sexuality. They were reprimanding them. And I think it's important to pay attention to any kind of belief system where they're instilling fear, guilt, or shame. Those are three things that I think, if they have to go to that route of instilling those types of things into people, I would usually say, be careful, because it's like, that means they're trying to control. Why else would they want to make you fearful of hell, or fearful of punishment, or fearful of exposure, or shame for what you did, or guilt? They do that as a means to control people of their congregation from not doing what the religion says to not do, because they want everyone to do what they say. Everyone has to do what they say. Another thing that she mentioned was, the experience of not being exposed to others in society. Others that were not Scientologists, like, for the longest time. And she explains, she lived in this building. She lived on site, and there were multiple people living on site. Now, some other person explained, that where they lived, I think it was in Florida, and they had, like, apartments that were 2 or 3 bedroom apartments, and they said that in each of these apartments there were maybe like 3 beds in each room. So that means there would be like 9 to 12 people, because there would maybe be like 2 people in the living room as well. So there'd be like 9 to 12 people staying in a house. It's not like it's your family lives in this unit. It's like everybody's stuck and crammed into this unit. That's a lot of people. And I think she didn't really touch on this in detail, but another person did in another podcast episode that kind of shed more light on the living experience, where it seemed like they lived on campus in those kind of dorm style rooms, and then when this was a male, when he got to be 13 years old or so, they moved him off to another place. He moved over to they moved him over to a place where it was all like teens about his age range, all living together. And one thing Dani mentioned, she mentioned that, people would inform on you. And so she mentioned being at this, theater, like maybe like behind the theater in La Cañada, and smoking cigarettes or something like that. And people could see you from the church with your friends. People from this religion could see you, go and inform on you, and then you'd get called into ethics. And you might not even know why you're getting called in, it seems like, or you might not even know what you did, or you might not know who it is that called you, that informed on you. And you're not talking to your mother about this. This isn't something that your mother's reprimanding you for smoking cigarettes. You're back at ethics, and you're in trouble for something that you did. And another stranger is reprimanding you. Like, it's like these aren't the same people every time. So it's like you don't really have a close connection with the people who are in charge of your punishment. It's like a random person. And when I think about that, because what it sounds like, to me, what it sounded like is there's a potential for abuse. You know, a big potential for kids to be exposed to abuse, all kinds of people to be exposed to abuse, because, you know, I mean, think about it. Like, people have different ideas about punishment, right? Like, I was raised in a certain way with punishment that I wouldn't raise my kids specifically like that. Not all of the versions of punishment I ever experienced. Some of them, I was like, you know, I kind of get it. And then others, I was like, yeah, that's really not, you know, okay. You know, I don't think that's okay. And I can't imagine just leaving a child with somebody assuming that they're gonna, you know, uphold the values that I personally have as far as like how I want to train up my own children. And to trust some stranger at that in a room alone with your kid, to trust them to, you know, punish your kid the way that you would do it. And it sounds like, you know, somebody had her kind of up against the wall, just like yelling at her face, screaming at her. I don't think this was about the cigarettes. I think this was about, you know, the MySpace post where she was kissing her female friend, and you know, somebody yelling in your face about that when you're a kid, and like your parents don't even, you know, like you're living with all these other people, you know, like you have like no privacy. Like basically, I'm pretty sure everybody knows. I think she even mentioned, you know, going to was it a doctor? I think it was a doctor of some form. And, you know, doctors are supposed to be confidential. And that doctor talked to her and told her private health information, whatever that was, told it to the mother. I don't know what the discussion was, but it's like, you know, when you go in to get a physical or whatever, and especially when you're like a teen, you know, they usually give you space, you know, to talk to the doctor alone. Like they usually are like, okay, like we're gonna ask you some questions. Is it okay if your parent's still in the room? And they usually ask you multiple times, and you can say, you know, I don't want my parent to be in here. And they usually, you know, I remember when I was younger, when I would get physicals, my mom would always go and try to be in the room with me. And I do remember when I got to be a certain age when they started asking those questions, but I wasn't doing anything at the age where they were asking me that anyways. But I can't imagine, you know, if I had been like, okay, like I don't want my parent in here, and then talking to a doctor, and then they happen to be the same religion as me, and then going back and telling my parent what I said in that confidential doctor session. I mean, that's definitely not okay. And I don't know, but maybe the Scientology religion protects those people, protects doctors and stuff who are breaking the rules. I don't really know. So yeah, she mentioned that she didn't start making friends outside of her Scientology people until a certain older age, where when she started asking people about it or talking to people about it, she noticed that she was when she started talking to people about it, she noticed that she was what would I call it? That she was you know, saying things that were kind of like odd. You know, I think she mentioned something about like other people being informants, like asking other teens, like, aren't you guys afraid that like someone's going to inform on you if you're doing all these, you know, things that teens kind of might get into, you know, different kind of curiosities and experimenting about things and like, you know, exploring different things. And you know, some of it can be trouble, some of it can be mischief, some of it's just like, maybe people taught you not to do that, but it's not really like a terrible thing, you know, you just decided to do something else. Like, for example, I grew up with a lot of people whose parents, you know, for religious and spiritual reasons, didn't eat meat. But sometimes, you know, when they were at school, they would like taste, you know, some other kids' lunches and like a turkey sandwich, or like, I think back then when I was younger, there used to be this thing called like a gobble stick or something like that. It was like a turkey sausage or like a turkey stick or something like a Slim Jim, but it wasn't like a sausage. It was like a meat stick, basically. I don't know, like almost like a hot dog, but it was like thinner and smaller and like a little snack. And I remember my pastor's daughter, my one of my pastor's daughters. He had 3 daughters, and we used to carpool with them. And they mentioned to one of their parents, "Oh yeah, I tasted one of my friend's gobble sticks, you know, for lunch." And I thought, I was like, "Oh, they're gonna be in so much trouble." And like, no, they weren't in trouble at all. They were just like, oh, like the parents were like, "Oh, okay." Like, so I had grown up thinking, "Oh, these people don't eat meat because they think it's bad and wrong," where there were some people I knew who did believe it was bad and wrong, so they didn't do it. And then other people, like even the pastor's family, like they didn't really eat meat or anything like that, but they didn't believe it was bad or wrong. So like, if we, like, you know, in the religion I grew up in, we didn't have informants and stuff like that, but I mean, like, that would have been an example of something that somebody could have told on you that you were doing, you know, doing something that the tradition says don't do. And she was kind of asking someone about, you know, aren't you guys like afraid that people are gonna like say something or whatever and you're gonna get in big trouble? And they were just like, no, like they'd look at her and be just like, no, like I'm not even like afraid, like it's not like a big deal, you know. And she, you know, it's not just that her parents could find out, it could be anybody. It could be anybody. And it's not like Scientology doesn't have people in it. Like, it seems like there are a lot of people in that religion. And so, you know, if you're a teen and you're just hanging out around town, you know, and you're probably hanging out outside in places because you don't have your own money, so you're probably just chilling all around, you know, in different neighborhoods, but not too far away because you don't have transportation. You're probably close enough to that religious residential area because people live there. So I'm thinking she probably didn't get too far away for people to not be able to see her. And so, yeah, that's kind of what it seemed like when they were living on site, when they were, you know, she talks about studying on site. Some people say they study from like 8 a.m. to like 9 or 10 p.m. or 11 p.m., something like that. And it's like, that's all day long. Like, they kind of had to go to these classes all the time. And I think the reason why they have like the classes and the living together and stuff, and it's not like you're living together privately with your own family, you're living together with multiple people, multiple families, probably even. It sounds like it was almost like one family per bedroom or something. Like, I don't really know. Like, that sounds excessive, but it's like you don't have any space when you're in your room. You don't have any space in the living room of the house. And then when you leave the housing area, you're on the religious property. And so you don't have any, you know, you're either in classes with a bunch of people that are your age and stuff, or you're, you know, working once you start to work and you're with people, and usually you're either working or studying all day, and you're supposed to be there all day every day like that. And so if you're just like missing and go somewhere else, like people are going to know that you're not there because, You know, you're supposed to be busy doing something specific. And if you're not busy doing something specific, you're sleeping. And if you're sleeping, you're in a room that has a whole bunch of people. And so you're never really like alone enough to really do too much. Unless you really start breaking the rules, then you're going to be alone. And then someone's probably going to find out. So she explains about studying on site, that they would study a lot. And I guess initially it felt like, you know, it was like an experience of feeling like, oh, I'm actually learning a lot, you know, and then not actually learning, you know, not actually wanting to be there, you know, because it's excessive. I mean, like, even if you studied 8 to 5 every day with no weekends, that's still a lot. And to push to like 9 p.m., I mean, that's like really long. It's like you don't even have time to do anything else. And you're studying on site and you live on site. Like, I don't think everybody has to live on site, but she lived on site. And it sounds like a lot of people lived on these sites. She talked about working on site. Like, you're not getting even minimum wage. The other guy in another video talked about, you know, as a teen or an adult, you're maybe making $20, $30 a week, and you're working from, like, he said sometimes like 8 in the morning to like 11 at night or 10 o'clock at night. Like, you're working all day, you know, you barely just have enough time to sleep, and that's all. So you don't really have access to income. You don't really have a work history. You don't really have a lot of connections outside of your religion. You don't really have savings. You know, a lot of the stuff that these people have to do, like the ethics and the auditing and like the classes and everything, all this stuff costs money, like a lot of money. And so her mom was paying a lot of money for her to go do all these things. And I don't know what services they were working as. I don't know what they do for work. But yeah, I'm still learning about it, but it's just like, wow. Like, I just, you know, I was pretty, you know, shocked to hear about the LGBT culture inside of Scientology, about how they treat people. You know, I've never heard of anything like that before, you know, where it's like your parents aren't even the ones who are talking to you about it, you know, like, I mean, I don't really know, what they do about sex ed and stuff like that. Like, I mean, they're learning all the time, so I don't know if they're, like, what they're learning about, you know, but I'm pretty sure it's material that's been screened specifically for whatever the religion would say is appropriate. They're probably not just learning anything. They probably don't just give them a laptop and like, here, just learn. Like, they're probably given specific, it sounds like they have specific courses. I don't really know. It's a little bit confusing to me because I really don't know exactly what it is. So yeah. So I think that's most of what I wanted to talk about with this topic. With Dani's story, I did go through another story that I don't really know if I'm gonna post about it or not. Maybe I will. It was a different Mormon story of an LGBT couple. But I don't know. We'll see. But yeah.